So today I wanted to talk about small tools for developing games and the communities around them. So I think that getting started with game development can be daunting and sometimes inaccessible. So I taught myself to code using and use Unity over a few years, but later I started using small tools like Bitsy and Flatpack, which I'll introduce you. And they allowed me to express myself in ways that I wasn't really able to before, and gave me confidence in my ability to design games and complete and share them. So I actually have a background in geology and paleontology, but I began learning to code and make games a few years later using online tutorials and help from friends. So this was my first project, which was called Decay of Terraria, which began as a tutorial about if statements and then just turned into this like Pokemon-style text-based RPG with side quests and complex monster evolution and ASCII art animated battles. So over the 1.5 years of spare time that I spent on that, it sort of grew and grew in scope until it would have been maybe 30 hours of a finished game. So I decided to round off chapter 1 of what would have been about 12, so that I had something that I could put online and just stop working on it. And I think the issues that I was having with scope came largely from not understanding the limitations of the tool. So these days I still code and I do use Unity on my main project. But I also use small tools in my spare time to make small personal games. So when I talk about tools, I mean an engine or game development environment such as Unity, Unreal or Game Maker. But small tools are different in that they don't generally involve a big software download or need particular hardware specifications. They're often browser-based, free, and have minimal coding requirements. These features, I think, can help overcome a lot of external barriers that people can face when starting to learn how to make games. And I like this analogy that small tools are like tiny ecosystems or biomes of game development. So I think there's smaller systems that are easier to understand with smaller boundaries and relationships, meaning that you can learn to be creative with them in unique ways. So this is the first point. I changed the order of some of my slides, so that'll come next. This is the first small tool that I'd like to introduce, which is Bitsy by Adam Libby. In Bitsy, you can make little pixel art narrative adventures using limited sprite size and colour palettes. It has basic movement and dialogue mechanics that are pre-built, meaning that you don't need to do any coding. And it's free and web-based, and when you load the page the first time, you get a small sample game that you can just begin playing and editing straight away. There's also monthly online game jams for Bitsy that anyone can check out Adam's Twitter and he does little polls that you can just vote on to decide what the theme is for that month. So I also want to show you Flatpack by Mark Wonnacott. And Flatpack is a tool for Android devices which allows you to collage together an interactive story by taking photographs and digitally cutting out the parts that you want to keep. And it's simple to use, meaning that you can begin experimenting and iterating quickly. And it's also great for practicing narrative design through movement and images. So a lot of the games that I make are about exploring a space and talking about the feelings that come with it, or sometimes just little worlds or experiments. I made this game, this system, a couple of years ago using Flatpack. I was on a bus ride to my parents' place and wanted to map out the feelings I was having at the time. And I thought about them in terms of cycles and loops, and how I'd experienced patterns of familiar feelings throughout my life. I had the idea to use the analogy of systems and cycles in nature and use Flatpack to go outside and just find things on the ground and make all the art that way. And it was the first time that I'd used a small tool like this, and I had an amazing experience being able to put it together in a few days and say what I wanted to say without encountering any sort of bugs or technical issues or problems with scope. And it was very relaxing and energizing. So with the confidence and positive experience I gained from using Flatpack, I decided to try a new tool. And the theme for that month's Bitsy Jam was secret. So I started thinking about various ideas for this. And in the end, I decided to make this like John Hughes inspired 80s film story about a reclusive girl who listens to people's conversations through the vents and is annoyed about never being noticed and then just stirs up all the drama at the school prom. So it took a couple of weeks of spare time overall, but already I was noticing that I wasn't having the normal sort of scope management problems that I was before. this one is called Limbo Train, which was for the following Bitsy jam, about which the theme for which was trains. So I was really keen to make something as short as possible and explore this new way of making games. So I'd just been on a train journey a few days before, and I always really like the feeling that you can get when you're on a train, where you're sort of sitting there thinking outside of a particular space and time. And this is the whole game, where you press the arrow key and the background moves, and then you lift it up and it stops. So you can just play it for as long as you want. So now I wanted to talk about the communities around small tools. I went to a game jam a few years ago, which was all about making flat games. So that's generally encouraging people to sort of hand draw or handcraft all their art. And they're often sort of small vignettes or personal stories. And Flatpack was made as a tool to sort of make these flat games. So this jam was my first insight into communities and arts movements around sort of small tools and alternative games and styles. And there was a real focus on personal, non-commercial games and people really supporting and helping each other, which was a noticeably different vibe from more competitive game jams that I've been to. So, yeah, just skipping slides. So I wanted to show you a couple of workshops that I've been involved in that have brought these collaborative game-making ideas into public spaces. This one was a flat game workshop, which was at Now Play This in London last year, where we made digital games out of art and writing from lots of different people, and then put them back onto these arcade cabinets for people to play. And this one was at the V&A in London earlier this year, and focused on people creating a big collaborative world together out of craft materials. And I think there's something about these accessible ways of creating games that brings people together and gets people really excited about helping each other to create and imagine. And generally, I think if you make something playful, then people will want to play together. So, so back to Bitsy again. After I'd made those first couple of games that I showed you, I felt like I knew the tool pretty well, and I wanted to share that experience that I'd had with other people and extend the positive community that I'd found. So I wrote a tutorial on the tool and a game to go alongside it, which began as an example piece that I used to take screenshots of the tutorial and ended up being a full game about just how much I loved Bitsy and the experience of using it. And the tutorial is now the semi-official tutorial that you can find a link to in the About section of Bitsy. And that made me feel really connected to the community and engaged with it in a way that I've not really had with an online community before. And it was just really nice to feel like anyone could get involved and make a difference with it. So the community around Bitsy has quite a big online presence, and there's a Bitsy Discord, which is open to everyone. You can find a link through that Twitter account up at the top if you want to join. And it's just a really nice place for people to share ideas and be supportive of each other, and you can just sort of go and see what people are working on. And it's very gender diverse and queer and welcomes people from all over the world. So I wanted to show you a couple of community projects in particular. This one is Bitsy Boutique, which was made by Mark, who made Flatpack. And it's this visible device that you can play Bitsy games offline with very cool buttons and curtains. And it's got hundreds of different people's Bitsy games on, and it's been to various sort of games festivals all over the world as well for people to play. And there's also been collaborations between lots of members of the Bitsy community, such as this one, which is the Bitsy Mystery Dungeon, which was a sort of exquisite corpse of Bitsy rooms made by 34 different people and put together by David Mowat. And there's a link to it just underneath if you want to check that out. And there's been other collaborations with lots of people as well since, like, there was a game called the Bitsy Sleepover, which was super cute. So if you want to play Bitsy games and other small games, or create and upload your own, then the best place to start is itch.io, where you can search for the Bitsy tag. And this is some screenshots I took a couple of weeks ago when the theme for the jam was teeth, so there's a lot of teeth-themed games there. And then, yeah, that's it.